Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go. Here you go.
Puppet. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It's Thursday, September 5th, 2024. Puppet, as in what Roger Goodell was called by an employee of the Washington Commanders on a date that he found on Hinge. Huh? Why is that a story that we are leading a show with on the day that this season opens? We are 12 hours away, if you're watching live on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel, from week one. The Chiefs are ready to go. Coca's ready to watch the Ravens. And what's in my head is the craziest story you'll ever see or ever hear. So let's get into it. I want to go over everything that was said by this employee of the Washington Commanders about his position, about the NFL, about Roger Goodell. He is the VP of content for the Commanders. That is middle management. He goes on Hinge looking for a date, goes on a date, second date, third date, doesn't realize that he's being videotaped. A word to the wise for those of you on the dating apps. A word to the wise for those of you who simply wake up in the morning. There's a pretty good chance that somewhere along the course of your day, someone is going to keep track of something that you're saying or doing. So this guy sits down, has a meal, and gets suckered into honesty. I say that because I don't give people who take Ambien an out because they're on Ambien. I don't give people who are on a hidden camera an out because they were supposed to be on a date without a hidden camera. The reason I don't give them an out is whether you are peacocking or whether you are showing your true colors. Phil Collins, although I like that, Cyndi Lauper's better. But either way, when you say things, just know there may be a problem. And Rael Entine, the VP of content for the Commanders, has a big problem. So he sits down across the table and he gets asked just to talk. They're talking about his job and, past the calamari and normal things are happening. And then he starts talking about players and whether or not they're smart, whether or not they're dumb, how political they are, how not political they are. Starts talking about Jerry Jones, doesn't like black people, doesn't like gay people. The VP of content for the Washington Commanders is extremely unlikely to have ever been in a room with Jerry Jones. Roger Goodell is a $50 million puppet. He does whatever the owners want. Jerry Jones is in control. I'm not sure that he's ever been in a room with under 100 people and Roger Goodell. And I'm not saying that what he said about Roger Goodell is or is not true. You know what commissioner's job is, to increase the value of their team and to do the bidding for the owners. Why would the Commanders, when they see this, be angry enough to suspend this employee, which they've done? He's been with the organization for 4 years. They watch this video, they start an investigation, and they suspend him pending the outcome of the investigation. Code word, they're getting their ducks in a row before firing him. I wonder whether it matters to the Commanders or anyone else that this was an entrapment job by a reporter for O'Keefe Media Group. This story's getting intriguing, isn't it? Do you know what O'Keefe Media Group is? Think about a fully funded punked. Think about a group of people, and we reviewed a movie about this, Coca. People who are out there on the web trying to get into your systems and give you viruses and ask for money or ask for you to change your position on an issue. O'Keefe Media Group spends its time, money, and resources finding people, often in Washington, often politically bent, to say things that will cause a major brouhaha. I question why they want to get involved in sports, because the majority of major brouhahas are political related. I did what I love to do yesterday, and I spoke to several people who are friends of mine, some better than others, none of whom are interested in sports. And I use it always as a bellwether to say, hey, are you talking about this? Do you know about this? So I asked about O'Keefe Media, and everyone I spoke to knew who they were and what they did. It was 100%. When I asked about, are you aware of what happened with the Washington Commanders? It was also 100%. On the no side, they had not heard. The whole point of what O'Keefe Media does is they try to put stories out there. They try to frame people, seriously frame them, in order to draw attention to something, someone, mostly themselves. In this case, it's a total failure. But NFL and the Commanders have to deal with it as though it is the sun and the center of the universe, even on the day the season is starting. Roger Goodell gets wind of something like this. He speaks to Josh Harris, the owner of the Commanders. Josh Harris goes through what their plan is, how they're dealing with it. Roger Goodell gives the go-ahead for the way the Commanders want to deal with it. They get lawyers involved, HR lawyers, who are always on staff, and outside counsel. We always would have both. Teams, all teams do. You've got in-house counsel, but you also use outside counsel. And you decide what you're going to do, both from a PR standpoint and from a logistical standpoint, dealing with the employee. When you have an employee anywhere who's videoed saying, hey, listen, over 50% of our roster is white religious, and this is what he said. When you have an employee on video, whether it's framed otherwise on a date or otherwise, saying that the players are dumb as hell, quote, talking about concussions, talking about conspiracy theories. When you've got an employee on record, whether it's on a date or elsewhere, saying, I don't think the commissioner of the NFL hates gay people, hates black people. Jerry Jones, who really runs the NFL, I think he hates gay people and black people. When you've got those things on video, you can't just tourniquet the story. Tourniqueting the story is, as you know, for longtime listeners and viewers of Nothing Personal, is one of my favorite PR strategies, because I don't want to give oxygen to something, let it run its course, and then move on. The problem when you are a team and there is something that involves the commissioner or involves another team owner or involves your players, you have a very hard time letting it go. So I'm picturing the Commanders getting together and coming up with the following response. And they're going to have to, and they will. They can't just say they're suspending their VP of content. They can't just say what the team spokesperson said in a statement. They had the problem yesterday of doing a statement too soon, which leads to a second statement. But the first statement was, the language used in the video runs counter to our values at the Commanders organization. We have suspended the employee pending an investigation and will reserve further comment at this time. If you say in your statement that you're reserving comment until the next statement, then that should be your only statement. The reason why the Commanders felt they had to say off the top, hey, this does not represent, that's a very popular one. What was said by this employee does not represent any of the values that we hold true to our core. You have to mention value, you have to mention core, and you have to separate yourself. You have to announce the suspension, but then you say, well, we're going to investigate and then announce. How about this if you're the Commanders? When you're told about this, you learn about this, of what O'Keefe Media Group did to your organization as manifested through an employee who clearly was peacocking in a way that he was hoping would help him score. What if you just released something that said, we are very aware of the video. We are reserving comment. That's all you had to say. I don't believe that it's necessary for you as the company to say that this runs counter to our values. It would be counter to anyone's values. You can't, and I underscore can't. There are those who do, and for the life of me, I don't understand how. But as an organization, unless you are branded as the KKK or a white supremacy group, unless that is your business, being racist, being homophobic, then the working assumption is that you're not going to be. That is the most amazing thing about the bar that's set for companies that get themselves in trouble, is we all want to assume and do assume that a company is going to have core values. So when you see a company that you wouldn't expect to manifest racism and prejudice, it causes amazing blowback. Think about what happens in sports with Donald Sterling or Marge Schott. The reason why it is so shocking is because you've got the working assumption that they're going to be normal. And then when they manifest their anger, frustration, intolerance, it causes a disproportionate feeling inside you. The NFL will have to have a statement about this. The Commanders are going to have a follow-up statement. And I'm going to tell you exactly how this ends. And it ends very simply. N-Teen is going to be fired. There is no scenario under which we would allow an employee to say any of the things N-Teen said. For crying out loud, I don't let employees wear jerseys from other teams even when they're not working. So you can imagine my view of what this employee did. We tell our employees, we tell our players, you're being videoed, you're being recorded. You are a representative of your company every minute of the day, no matter where you are in the world, whether you're working or not. Try not to forget that when you are working for somebody. It doesn't matter if it's a 9-to-5 job. You represent them. This guy, N-Teen, he's finished. Wait to see. Nothing personal pick of the day, presented by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. We've got one heck of a game tonight. The San Francisco Giants and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Guess who's pitching for the Giants? Blake Snell. Guess what? The Arizona Diamondbacks, along with the Padres, have been two of the hottest teams in baseball for the last month. The Diamondbacks are plus 130 against Blake Snell because Blake Snell has started to pitch like someone who had spring training. Blake Snell has started to pitch like someone who didn't want a simple 1-year short-term deal with an opt-out. Blake Snell has been hot, which is why he's favored. But I would take the Diamondbacks, and we are taking the Diamondbacks at plus 130. The nothing personal pick of the day presented by DraftKings is the Arizona Diamondbacks plus 130 over Blake Snell and the Giants. Of course, lines are subject to change. The Giants had quite a day yesterday. Did you see what they did? All right, I'll tell you, because it may have happened while you were sleeping. Matt Chapman, one of the Boras four. He's more like George Harrison. I'm going to have Jordan Montgomery as Ringo, although he's gone now from Boras. I'll have Matt Chapman as Harrison. And then I guess Bellinger and Snell are Lennon and McCartney, and you can choose who's who. That is not a winning band. Matt Chapman signed an extension yesterday with the Giants. So Matt Chapman's had a good year. He's 32 years old. He is going to win another Gold Glove. He wins one every year. He is a plus defender at third base. He's hitting for power. He's not hitting for average. He's got good WAR. You give me good WAR, Matt. He signed a 3-year deal for $18 million a year because Boras couldn't get him more last year as a free agent. Chapman had an opt-out after each year. And the Giants have now agreed to pay him 6 guaranteed years at $30 million. No, excuse me, for $150 million over 6 years. $25 million a year. Did you hear that? Chapman got 18 from the Giants. They're giving him a raise to 25 because he had a good year, and they're tacking on 5 years for a total starting next year of a 6-year deal that will take him through age 37. Dear owner Johnson, dear Farhan, the only way Scott Boras signs his clients to an extension during the season is when you overpay to the point of night sweats, fever, and chills. There is no scenario under which Chapman is going to give you 6 years of production at the level that you've had it this year. There is no scenario where Matt Chapman's contract will work out for you. And this is not me being anti-player. This is me saying, how can you be so absolutely out to lunch that you don't know how Scott Boras works? If he is saying yes to something on September 5th before taking his client out to the market, it means he already took his client out to market and couldn't get close to what you're giving and didn't think time would waste. Well, wait a minute. Chapman may have called Boras and said, listen, Scott, I know you're after the money. I'm not. I love Frisco. Just got here. Love it. Loved Oakland, Frisco. Want to stay. Family, kids. I'll take a discount. Hometown discount, because we know those exist. What a bunch of horse hockey. Why am I worked up? Why am I worked up? Because how are we ever going to learn to make the game better? How are the Giants going to learn? Have you guys performed well? Is the team, are you having a season to be proud of? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to six-still down. That's not a word. I was going to say double down. Now I want to say triple down. And I was trying to be funny and say 6 down. Hexagon, pentagon, heptuple, thruple. We won our pick of the day yesterday. We had the Rangers over the Yankees. Did you not think Eovaldi was going to beat Stroman? Was there any part of you that, even as Yankee fans, that thought that you had a chance against the Rangers? Don't worry. We are now 115 and 120 with that win. Remember the wait to sees that I go back to? And you all say you don't have any accountability. DavidSampsonPodcast.com. Full accountability. January 12th, 2024. Marcus Stroman will pitch under 140 innings. Well, he just went over 140 innings last night. However, I'm not taking the loss for this wait to see. And Coca and I can argue till we're both green in the face. But I think he agrees. There is no loss, because what I said was Stroman will go under 140 innings because the Yankees will not want his option to vest next year. Why would you want Stroman next year? It turns out I was off by a year. The 140 inning threshold for vesting is for 2026, and the innings pitched are in 2025. So While I may take a no on the wait to see they'll go under 140 innings in 2024, my reason stands. So we can re-up the wait to see on September 5th, 2024, and tell you that Marcus Stroman will not, under any scenario, pitch 140 innings in 2025, thereby making his option not vest in 2026. Players do not wear bulletproof vests. That was a terrible transition. Just terrible. I didn't even give my picks. I didn't even talk about NFL Week 1. All right, skip the transition and go back to nothing personal pick of the day, please. Okay. All right, we'll do that. 4-8-69. Nothing personal pick of the day presented by DraftKings. I do have a pick for you in NFL Week 1. We've got the Chiefs giving 3 to the Ravens. You are very welcome, Matthew Coca. And to all Ravens fans out there who believe that the Chiefs do not cover at home and that my ability to start the season with a win is in question. So I am taking the Chiefs -3 because it is a brand new season. I'm looking for Travis Kelce to have a great game as he tries to keep himself active in the offense. I'm looking for Mahomes to make a statement against the rival in the AFC Ravens. And I expect them to start their three-peat with at least a 3-point victory over the Baltimore Ravens. Your nothing personal pick of the day presented by DraftKings, Kansas City Chiefs -3 over the Baltimore Ravens. NFL Week 1 is super awesome. I love that we're talking about an employee who got snookered into showing his true self. And what about this story that came out? We're a day away from the Packers opening their season against the Eagles. We've talked about the Brazil game. NFL is going to Latin America. Everything's coming up roses. We're not talking about anything negative relating to Brazil. Don't worry about the fact that there's no Twitter and there's political unrest. There's safety issues. There's gangs. What uniform should we wear? We're just talking about Jordan Love and his new contract. Nope. A bunch of players came out yesterday, and Roger Goodell must be breathing fire. They are very concerned about the security in Brazil. And here's the tough one. In 2000 and something, Coca, I'm going to guess it was 2005, 2004, it could have been. We did a spring training game in Mexico City. MLB came into our clubhouse and said, all right, here's how it's going to be. You can't leave your hotel without security. We will provide security to everybody. But if you want to leave your hotel, call down, get the security. They'll take you where you want to go. However, we suggest you don't leave your hotel. We will take you to the ballpark and back. Have fun. The NFL sat with its players and did the same thing about Sao Paulo. They basically are tightening security. Players are voicing their concern about even going to Latin America. They are despondent beyond repair. There are players who are acknowledging A.J. Brown came out and told reporters, hey, listen, we had a meeting with a whole bunch of don't do's, so I'm just going to go down there, win a football game, and come back home. The players were told, don't carry cell phones, don't walk on the streets. Darius Slay Jr. went on his podcast and said, I don't want to go to Brazil. They already told us not to leave the hotel. They told us we can't do much. The crime rate's crazy. Slay said, listen, I don't understand. Why are you sending us there? Why are we even leaving the country? Slay said, I told my family, don't even come. I get that because I did the same thing in Mexico City. Guess what? Slay had to apologize. He did a post on his Twitter saying, hey, I'm sorry to anyone I offended. I can't wait to get to Brazil. I love Brazil. It's such a great market. I'm so excited. It was a total hostage video response. I hate to use that given where we are in today's world, but that's really what it was. The NFL, much like Major League Baseball or any of the other leagues, They don't care whether or not the players are comfortable or the executives are comfortable going to a country. The NFL is interested in winning the international game. The game they're playing is against the other leagues. The game they're playing is getting the most revenue they can from cituses outside of these United States. It comes in the form of broadcast revenue. It comes in the form of guarantees by promoters who put on the games. There are all sorts of, there's merchandise, there's licensing, all sorts of revenue streams that open up. Are you shocked that the NBA wants to do games in China? Or that Major League Baseball wants to do games in Europe or the NFL? Does any of this surprise you in any way? The reason why they don't want it to get out what players think about Brazil has nothing to do with them thinking Brazil is a safe place. As a matter of fact, the NFL did have the meetings with those players. It did say those things. I've been in those meetings, like in March of 2004, when we had, thank you, Coca, when we had the meeting about going to Mexico City, played the Astros. I think Roger Clemens was around that time. The NFL has to, upon consultation with attorneys and the Players Association, upon getting approval for these games, part of that is telling the players how it's going to be, beefing up security, being honest with the players, and praying to God that none of them will be stupid enough to go on social media. 20 years ago, we didn't have to worry about players saying anything on social media because there really wasn't anything to worry about. The NFL and other leagues, they have to be more nuanced now. They have to be a bit smarter about their communications. But they don't care. And the reason why is that the money that's coming in from the Brazil game, it's not at risk because Darius Slay doesn't feel safe, or he doesn't want his family to come, or A.J. Brown lets some information go public. The reason that the money comes into the NFL is that the money that's being paid is local in Brazil. The people in Brazil are not scared of Brazil. The people of Mexico City are not scared of Mexico City. The promoters, the broadcasters, the fans who are buying the tickets, the merch, etc., they actually do not change their purchasing habits based on the musings of players. These are business deals that are cut. The interesting thing is that the NFL will tell you that when they're playing games in London, that, hey, what a great thing for all the fans of Jacksonville to take a weekend trip to London, or that when Major League Baseball does a game in Dominican, that'll be an opportunity for people to go and see the academies of their favorite team, or go to the Dominican to watch a game, or go on vacation to an all-inclusive resort where you can get everything, even if it's not included. But when they're doing the math of these games, none of that is a variable. Roger Goodell doesn't need you to go to Brazil for this game. He doesn't need you to do anything at all, other than what you normally do, which is watch it and bet on it. The revenue that they're getting, it's solid. So you're going to keep seeing these international games. Now, in order to figure out what's happening, don't forget, you better watch it. Why? Remember, no Twitter, no X, no updates. I don't think I would have approved any of the media, any of my insiders, if I were ESPN. Why send them down there? Watch it on TV like the rest of us. You can't communicate it all anyway. Good luck. Let's go, Packers. NFL Week 1. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, it's Thursday. We absolutely get to review a movie from my top 100. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It's David Samson on a Thursday. Thank you for joining us every day, for telling your friends about us, spreading the word. We love being here every single day for you. We're live at 8 a.m. and We are on DraftKings Network at 10 a.m. Of course, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. But then you'd miss people. Can you see with a shirt and jersey combo today? All right, it's Thursday. We're reviewing movies from our top 100. Number 7 on my list is a movie called Banshees of Inisherin. We recently reviewed it on December 21st, 2022. I guess that's not that recent. But we did do a full review if you want to go back and listen to it. In the interest of time and all the other subjects I want to get to today, just know this. If you haven't seen it, shame on you. Obviously, if it's number 7, it's meaningful to me. When you've got Gleason and Farrell working together and you need subtitles, you're going to want to watch it. I don't want to give it away. I think everybody's seen it. We're going to keep going. I'm going to redo my top 100. I was thinking about this, Coca. And in January, I'm going to redo it. And I've been watching all these movies for my top 100 again as part of reviewing them on Thursday. And I've told you that some movies are going to go up, like Fisher King is going to go up for sure. I think some movies are going to go down. I don't know that Banshees is going to move at all. I love the fact that I watched it again, but I'd seen it. This is now, I think, the third or fourth time I'd seen it. And it lands perfectly every time. I don't move. I still, every time I've watched it, no cell phone checks. All right, random number generator. Here's what we're doing next week. This is a spreadsheet from one of our listeners. Thank you so much. Hit the button, Coca. What are we reviewing next week? Next week, Thursday, Ruby Sparks, Paul Dano, and Kazan, his real-life partner. Ruby Sparks, watch it in advance of next Thursday. I'm so excited I get to watch that. I want to give a shout-out to Greg Mann. Greg Mann pointed out a mistake. I am fine with corrections. Please keep telling me corrections. We're live. There's no prompters. There's no nothing. There's no people. There's nothing. It's just me coming up with subjects with Coca and Sarah and talking about them. I thought that Michael David McCready was the bassist for Pearl Jam. I went to Pearl Jam 2 nights ago. Turns out he's the lead guitarist, and I mislabeled him. Greg, I appreciate you reaching out. I really do. There's no way to segue to the other news of the day and to do it without being clumsy. I wanted to tell you that I wasn't just going to pass the broccoli, which is my way of saying that when I hear bad news and I internalize it and then go on with my day like the rest of us do. Yesterday was another school shooting, this one in Georgia. A 14-year-old killed 2 teachers, including a defensive coordinator for the team. Killed 2 kids, injured a bunch of others. Didn't kill himself. He's in custody now. It was a back-to-school shooting. I've done on this show countless segments on the Second Amendment, on guns, on shootings. Don't have all the information we're going to get. I'm not sure it's going to lead anybody's show today that's in sports. I talk on this show about self-inflicted mistakes. When someone in your family gets sick and they can't watch your show or go about the normal course of their day because they're sick, they didn't do it to themselves. Just bad luck. There are a whole bunch of people not watching Nothing Personal today in Georgia. There's a whole bunch of people not doing anything they'd like to be doing today because their life got turned upside down by a 14-year-old who had basically flagged the fact that there was going to be a shooting. We don't know whether it was exactly that 14-year-old, but somebody called the school and said there was going to be a shooting. The shooter was a boy who had been investigated by police after posting threats online about doing a shooting. I've always been a proponent of our rights. Forget where I am politically. You'd be surprised as I continue to tell you. I do believe that we all have the right to privacy. I do believe that we have the right to free speech, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, all of the freedoms that so many people were willing to die for so I could have. The freedom to end the show now and get up and never do another show. The freedom that you have to turn the channel, vote with your thumb, to vote, period. I also believe that we have the obligation to properly engage with people who are abusing those rights. Some people call it the broken penal system. Some people just call it a violation. I call it aspirational. That we're smart enough, informed enough, wise enough to do the right thing. The abuse of doing the right thing is what people accuse the NSA of doing. If everyone's listening to our phone calls, I always laugh at that. You want to watch me and listen to my phone calls? Have at it. The reason why we have to monitor is that we have to have the ability to correct action before it happens, Minority Report style. How is it that a call can come into a school? How is it that a person of interest can be interviewed, can be a suspect, can be questioned, and then gets lost? Is it because we don't have the resources? How long is that going to be? Where we blame, we don't have the money, we don't have the ability. There is the money and there is the ability. Who would make the choice to eliminate certain sports teams or certain clubs or certain field trips or certain teachers or certain benefits in order to properly monitor and act based on threats, to investigate? Who would make that trade? Everyone who says they wouldn't make the trade is because you've got somebody who would be affected badly by those cuts. And I will see those affected badly and raise you 2 dead kids, 2 dead teachers, people whose lives are now forever changed, and it's not you. How many times do we talk about, hey, it's not me, I'll worry about that when it happens? Hey, I'm not sick yet, I'll worry about that when it happens. I don't need to sleep. I don't need to worry about safety in school because it doesn't happen in my school, not in my backyard. I don't care about the fact that it's not safe where I am because I've never had a problem. It's perfectly safe. It's just an odds game. Here's the problem. What happens when you roll a 7? What happens when the odds catch up to you? Then all of a sudden you become the one who raises money for cancer. You become the one who raises money for gun control. You become the one who starts a support group. You become the one who goes to a support group. You become the one whose life becomes defined by the very tragedy that could have been avoided if you had been willing to approve and agree to an investment that may impact you without the need for the result. And I love the way you're all going to roll your eyes. And I love that Coca and everybody else, although I can't speak for Coca, is going to say, David, are you kidding me? You're going to eliminate programs? You're going to sacrifice the well-being and happiness of the many in order to protect the few? Seems to go against utilitarianism, doesn't it? John Stuart Mill, the greater good. We do what's best for most. Save 4 lives instead of 1. That's what you do. I don't know. I'm beginning to question it. I'm not doing thoughts and prayers to the people in Georgia. I'm not going to do anything other than implore you, ask you, wonder along with you. What happens when you pass the broccoli so many times that you run out of vegetables? I think that's where I am right now. I don't think there's anywhere to pass it. There's anyone to pass it to, and there's anything left in the bowl. It can't be that you're unaffected. It can't be. And if you are, why? defense mechanism? Way to get through life? Baseballs are weapons. They're not guns, but they can kill you. When put in the wrong hand, anything can be classified as a weapon in our legal system. Pots, pans, steaks, AKE, not EAK. Although a frozen EAK absolutely could be a weapon. Whit Merrifield is a player. Remember the one who got waived and now he's on the Braves and it's a whole big thing? Doesn't matter. Here's what matters. Whit Merrifield is furious today. He got hit in the head by a pitch. And he would like you all to know that he's had it. He's angry and he's not going to take it anymore. I want you to hear what Whit Merrifield said, and then I want to explain what is going to result from it. Coca?
The way pitchers are throwing now, there's no remorse for or the regard for throwing up and in. The guys are throwing as hard as they can, and they don't care where the ball goes. And they can't. You can't hit a guy anymore back. There's no fear that, oh, if I hit this guy, our guy's going to get hit. That's not in the game anymore. Pitchers don't have to hit anymore, so they don't have to stand in the box. And the teams are bringing pitchers up that don't know where the ball's going. They throw 100 miles an hour, so we're like, all right, we'll see if we can get the guys out. Just set up down the middle and throw it as hard as you can. And it's driving me nuts, and I hate where the game's at right now with that. And I'm on the rules committee, and we got a call tomorrow, and it's going to be a long conversation on what we got to do.
So a couple things about Whit Merrifield. The committee that he's talking about, the competition committee, where there are player representatives who get outvoted by the ownership representatives. We've covered that topic on Nothing Personal. That's a committee where new rules are discussed and new changes. And baseball pretend they're getting player involvement, but they're not really. The players can yell till they're red in the face, and the owners have more members of the committee. So the committee's run by owners. What Whit Merrifield is talking about is a major issue, though. And I want to tell you from a team perspective how I would react to this. He is right. Everything he said, every president and GM knows. The commissioner knows. There is no way to help this situation. It's hopeless. Why? I'm paid to win as many games as I possibly can. I know that the best way to get players out is to make them uncomfortable in the box. I teach and want my players to throw inside. I need them to throw with velocity. The faster you throw, the better. Not because people dig the long ball, but when Joyce throws 105 miles an hour, that's great. That's fun. That gets attention. But what really matters to me is the faster you throw, the likelihood is you're going to get outs. And we need outs in order to win games. Now, when you come to me as a player and you say, listen, I've got zero command of my fastball, zero. But I'll tell you one thing, it goes 103. I say, please see the clubby and get your uniform. I am absolutely willing to put a pitcher on the mound where I know in the box, I'm watching the game, and I say to myself, oh my God, he has no idea where it's going. How wonderful. Until my team is at bat and I see the other team has the same guy and I say, that guy should not be a big league pitcher. You got to know where it's going. That sounds totally inconsistent. How can you sit as a president of a team and be extremely happy to have a pitcher with velocity, but be extremely upset when the other team is doing the exact same thing you're doing? It is the most irrational thing that we as executives do. We, in a copycat league, we operate exactly the way everyone else operates. We get upset that they're operating the way they operate, but we know that we're doing the operation in the same way. And the other people are looking at us and saying the same exact thing. There is no way to change that. We follow by changing some rules about defensive shifts. Only one team did it. Now 30 teams do it. Therefore, we're going to ban it. Well, there's no incremental benefit to doing the shift when everyone's doing it. Everyone's in the same boat. We're going to make this change that for pitch clock. We're going to make change with what batters can wear in the box to protect themselves. The pitchers don't want the hitters to have all that elbow armor because it makes them go further inside and get more coverage of the plate. The hitters want to wear as much as they can because they want to cover the plate and they want to protect themselves for all the pitchers who have no command. The union is stuck dealing with pitchers and hitters, all of whom always have disparate views of what needs to be done on the field. The commissioner is dealing with 30 owners, all of whom have disparate views of what should be done in the boardroom. When it comes to the owner's view of what should be done on the field, the reason why you won't see a change is owners have never complained about it. I remember when Stanton got hit in the face. I was furious. I wanted change. I wanted consequences. I wanted suspensions anytime someone got hit by a pitch. And I'm someone who directed hit by pitches before. But in the old days, when you direct a hit by a pitch, it's on the ass or in the jersey between the numbers. You're not throwing at somebody's head. You leave that to the Cardinals and La Russa. You do not throw at somebody's head ever. I'm not against the sticky stuff because pitchers are using it to get grip. Hitters want pitchers to have the sticky stuff. But the rules changed because the pitchers were saying, we'll see your sticky stuff and raise you a spider tack, which will make it even more impossible for you to hit. So now, no rosin, no sunscreen, no help. We're always reacting. Always. One thing happens to an extreme, so you try to bring it closer to the middle by doing something to the other extreme. We do that all the time. People are getting hit by pitches at a rate that we haven't seen this century. And every year, a record is being broken. Right now, more people have been hit. It would be like the 11th most of any season, and we still have 1/6 of a season left to play. You want to stop players being hit by pitch? There is one way to do that, and that is to penalize teams significantly, financially, suspend players, pitchers, hitters. You purposely get hit by a pitch, you're suspended. You hit someone with a pitch, you're suspended. The reason the union is not interested in anything like that, the reason the owner's not interested in anything like that, is because they view it as part of the game. Well, Whit Merrifield knows better than most that throwing at people, throwing inside, trying to establish who's got what part of the plate, hitter versus pitcher, it's always been part of the game. It's never going to change. So you can meet with your rules committee, your competition committee. You can meet the media and go on a 49-second rant about this is BS and you're tired of it. No end in sight. The only thing that may happen, and I mean may, but unlikely, MLB is trying to develop its own spider tack. They said that they were ready to roll. They said they had it. Of course, they haven't released it. It's not done. They're working on some sort of consistent sticky stuff. But that's really to address the 10-game suspensions that are happening. That's to address consistency because you need rules that are consistent. Otherwise, players say, oh, the rosin was only on my arm. No problem. Go wash it. Oh, my hand is sticky. No problem. You're 10 games done. Consistency is what we crave. Change, it's hard. Remember, yesterday we did a whole segment on the NFL not wanting and making fun of people wearing the Guardian caps. When Giancarlo Stanton first wore his face flap, people were like, oh, face flap. So you're going to be able to see? I regret, there's so many things I regret about my career. But one of them, Coca, is what I said to Stanton when that helmet was designed. I said, are you going to be able to see? Because my interest was making sure that he could hit. I have an idea. I know what I'm going to do. What if I started keeping track of all the things that I say can't change? and then just try to help one thing at a time, because it's overwhelming to think of all the things you've done wrong, or all the things where you're stuck in quicksand, or all the things where you're trying to make a difference, all the ways that companies are trying to make change and trying to draw attention to different issues, trying. I think what we should do, one little thing at a time. So here's where I'm going to start. I'm going to make a list, Coca, of my top 10 things that I regret from my 18 years as president, and I'm going to make them right. In the meantime, we're going to do another show tomorrow. It's just business. This is nothing personal.